A major cheating incident is exposed by the organization that oversees the STIC exams. To investigate the unusually high scores, a group of students is asked to explain their results. Among them is Lynn, a standout student known for her brilliance in math contests and top performance in school.
ไม่ได้ยากเกินความสามารถของหนูค่ะ
Before all this, Lynn sits with her father and a principal for an interview. Her father had applied for her to attend an elite school. Lynn isn't thrilled about it. She knows the tuition and fees would strain their already tight budget. She tries to talk him out of it. At the school, during the admission process, she quickly calculates the full cost of attending without needing a calculator. The principal is so impressed by her mental math skills that she offers Lynn a full scholarship on the spot. Lynn agrees and enrolls.
ให้เรียนฟรีเหรอคะ
While getting her photo taken for the school ID, Lynn meets Grace, a wealthy, bubbly student with dreams of acting rather than studying. Despite their differences, the two quickly bond. Grace doesn't mind Lynn's shy, academic nature, and Lynn enjoys having someone to talk to.
เลขแม่งก็ตัวฉุดเกรดด้วยเนี่ย
ตอบข้อควายไง
Grace does okay in her classes until the school suddenly enforces a minimum GPA of 3.2. Afraid of being kicked out and letting her parents down, Grace begs Lynn to help her study, even offering to buy her a milkshake every day. Lynn isn't sure at first, but she eventually
อัน
agrees.
นี้โดน เดี๋ยววันนี้สอนให้จบเลยมา
On exam day, Lynn speeds through her paper with ease, but she keeps glancing at Grace, who looks completely overwhelmed. Though she's done with her own test, Lynn can't stop worrying. If Grace doesn't pass, Lynn fears she'll lose the first real friend she's ever had.
ข้อสอบมันชีทอาจารย์สอบหมดเลยเอาอะนับได้ใช่ปะ
In the middle of the exam, Lynn makes a sudden choice. She decides to help Grace. Quietly, she writes all the right answers on an eraser, slips off her shoe, drops the eraser inside, and nudges it toward Grace. After taking the eraser, Grace returns the shoe, but with too much force. The shoe slides out into the open, right in the center of the classroom. Lynn quickly handles the situation by casually walking over and stepping on the shoe as she submits her test, making it look like nothing unusual happened.
ก็ต้องเขียนสิเธอไม่เคยสอบเลยไง
ขอโทษค่ะ
Grace uses the eraser to copy the answers and ends up scoring an impressive 3.87 GPA. Lynn got 4. To celebrate, she invites Lynn over to her house. They lounge by the pool with Grace's wealthy boyfriend, Pat. While chatting, Grace casually mentions how Lynn helped her during the test. Pat, always scheming, sees a business opportunity and proposes a deal. Lynn would help him and his friends cheat too, in exchange for a lot of money.
เราจะจ่ายให้แกนี่คือต่อคนนะลองคิดดูซึ่งเทอมหนึ่งมัน
Lynn turns him down at first, saying she doesn't need the cash, but Pat insists, pointing out that even with her scholarship, her father is still covering some steep administrative costs.
อย่าลืมค่าใช้สถานที่
That night, Lynn checks through her father's paperwork and confirms it. Despite earning so little, he's paying a large sum just to keep her in school. The discovery overwhelms her, and she breaks down in tears. Later, while practicing piano, she asks her dad why he pushed for this expensive school. He tells her he wants her to have a brighter future, maybe even study overseas. Lynn admits she was happier before, but her father doesn't really acknowledge her feelings. After he goes to bed, Lynn continues playing the piano, and a new idea strikes her. She notices how naturally her fingers move, perfect for subtle signals. The following day, she agrees to Pat's plan. She trains the group to recognize a set of hand gestures, each one representing a different multiple-choice answer. The only thing they have to do is memorize the signals and watch her closely during the test.
อันเนี้ยกอไก่เวลาแกจำอะแกจำว่านิ้วก้อย
To cover their tracks, the students disguise their secret sessions as piano lessons. It's the perfect front, legal, harmless, and convincing enough to hold up if anyone starts asking questions. From that point forward, cheating becomes a regular operation. During exams, Lynn moves her hand across the desk with subtle signals. To any outsider, it looks like nothing more than nervous fidgeting. Her classmates, though, are locked in and reading every move. Lynn doesn't waste the money. She quietly uses it to help her dad with bills and even surprises him with a smart new shirt.
ที่โรงเรียนเขาล้อแล้วว่าเป็นครูที่เกลือ
No one suspects a thing. Teachers remain oblivious, and everyone involved earns surprisingly high marks. Word spreads quickly, and soon more students are lining up, willing to pay for access to Lynn's help. Despite how many students are now getting excellent grades, Lynn continues to lead the class. The only one even close to her level is Bank, a naturally gifted student with no idea what's really going on. Lynn and Bank aren't exactly friends, but they've spent time together in competitions. Their teamwork always delivers wins, so they've come to respect each other. Before the competition, the two get to talking. Lynn tries to lighten the mood by talking about the prize money, but Bank clearly is not interested in her small talk. The competition begins. It is a national contest called Teen Genius. The duo won. After taking first place in the contest, the school principal meets with them both. There's news. A special international scholarship is available, but only one of them can claim it. From now on, they'll be in direct competition. Pressure hits Bank hard. At home, he finds his mother washing clothes by hand because their washing machine has broken again. Even with so much at stake, he chooses to help her rather than dive into study prep. One day, a student named Tong approaches Bank with an offer. He wants to pay for help during the upcoming test. The hand signal method is too complicated for him, and he's hoping for a simpler shortcut. But Bank refuses. He has no interest in being part of anything dishonest, especially if money is involved.
Bank! Hey, Bank!
The students gather for the exam, but Bank is suspicious and is seeing Lynn. During the exam, Lynn continues using her secret code as usual. Tong, having failed to learn the system, keeps sneaking glances at her paper instead. Bank, already suspicious, watches from his seat and notices Tong trying to copy. After finishing his own exam, Bank stages a clumsy stumble near Lynn's desk, discreetly showing her a note warning that Tong is cheating. She reacts with a quick nod, pretending to thank him casually. Bank then hands in his test and informs the teacher about Tong's behavior, but the complaint goes nowhere. The teacher brushes it off because the class is split into two test versions, so cheating wouldn't work anyway. What the teacher doesn't realize is that Lynn and her group already know this. As soon as they confirm who has which test version, they quietly start signaling to coordinate. Lynn, holding version A, signals those answers first, so her group can finish and submit. While the students with version A distract the teacher by crowding around to turn in their papers, Lynn swaps her test with Tong, who has version B. Now, under serious time pressure, she quickly works through his paper and flashes the new answers to the rest of the version B group. Just as the teacher starts walking over to collect the final tests, they scramble to fill in their papers. Everything is handed in right on time. Everyone assumes the danger has passed until Lynn and Tong are unexpectedly summoned to the principal's office. Bank had reported Tong again, and this time, the principal checked their exams. The teacher gets into the office, showing there are two sets of exams, and it is impossible to cheat. The discovery is immediate. The test sheets between Lynn and Tong have clearly been switched. Lynn's father is asked to attend a private meeting at the school. The principal explains what she did. Her father can't believe what he is hearing.
ว่าลินทำข้อสอบให้เพื่อน
As the principal is talking, Bank interrupts, saying that Tong tried to bribe him, but he refused, adding fuel to the fire. Since this is Lynn's first offense, and she's known for her academic excellence, she won't be expelled, but her scholarship will be taken away. Lynn doesn't stay silent. She calls out the school for its hypocrisy, pointing out that making her father pay extra administrative fees despite her scholarship is just another form of dishonesty. In her eyes, the school is profiting off education in the same way she had been. Her bold words anger the principal, who immediately retaliates by revoking her eligibility for the International University program. That leaves Bank as the sole candidate.
ธนพลไงนี่จะรับเงื่อนไขนี้ไม่ได้
But Bank doesn't feel like a winner. He knows the situation tipped in his favor unfairly and struggles with guilt. Back at home, Lynn faces her father's disappointment head-on. He's clearly hurt, not by the school's decision, but by her actions. He then takes off the shirt she bought with her earnings. He quietly refuses to wear it.
ไม่ต้องไปไหนทั้งนั้นอยู่กับพ่อนี่
Elsewhere, Grace is invited to dinner at Pat's house. His wealthy parents are thrilled with his academic improvement and assume it's all thanks to Grace's influence. They even offer to pay for both teens to attend Boston University if Grace takes the STIC and gets a good score.
จะได้ไปช่วยกันเรียนที่นู่นสารกูดไหม
Under pressure, Grace reaches out to Lynn. She pleads for help. At first, Lynn is reluctant. Burned by what happened, she doesn't want to jeopardize her future any further. But Grace insists, appealing to their friendship and offering far more money than before. Eventually, Lynn agrees. Later, as she's reading through the exam regulations, hoping to find a loophole, she realizes there's no way to cheat. Everything is too tightly controlled. She begins drafting a note to apologize and back out. Just then, she hears a man speaking in a foreign language over the phone and notices a wall full of clocks, each set to a different time zone. The following day, Lynn lays out a bold plan to Grace and Pat. They're going to exploit global time differences. Since the STIC exam is identical across countries, she'll take it in Australia, where it begins 4 hours earlier than in Thailand. Once she finishes, she can relay the answers back home before the exam starts there. Grace and Pat are tasked with recruiting paying students to cover the travel and setup costs. If everything goes right, Lynn can not only help others, but also fund her own dream of attending Boston University. But there's a catch. Lynn won't have much time after the exam ends to memorize all the answers. She estimates she can only remember half. To cover the rest, she'd need someone with an exceptional memory. Bank is the only person who fits that description. The problem? He would never willingly join a scheme like this. The night before the scholarship test, Bank is out on his motorbike delivering clothes for his mother's small laundromat. On his way home, two men confront him, accusing him of damaging their car. Before he can respond, they attack him. He's left beaten and unconscious, dumped in a garbage site on the outskirts of town, because apparently, fate wanted to make the metaphor painfully literal. By the time Bank wakes up the next morning, it's too late. He attempts to walk to the exam despite his injuries, but he was limping and kind of in the middle of nowhere.
ที่สาใจนะ
He's missed the test completely. Word spreads quickly, and Lynn eventually hears what happened. Later, they finalize their plan. The plan is for Bank and Lynn to fly to Australia, take the test early, and sneak hidden phones into the exam centers, concealed in bathroom stalls, to transmit the answers back in real time. During scheduled breaks in the exam, they'll head to the bathrooms and quietly message the answers back to Grace and Pat. For the final section, where no break is allowed, they'll fake feeling unwell to get out mid-test.
เราจะทยอยส่งคำตอบให้ช่วงระหว่างพักการสอบซึ่งการสอบเนี่ยแบ่งเป็น
Back in Thailand, Grace and Pat prepare for their part. They'll print the answers as barcodes onto small stickers, which will be discreetly placed on pencils. These pencils are then rushed to the paying students just before their flights. It's a slick, high-stakes operation. To attract more buyers, Pat stages an over-the-top marketing pitch, mimicking a tech mogul unveiling a new invention. Finally, Lynn visits Bank and asks him to be part of her plan. At first, he's furious and refuses. But Lynn doesn't back down. She speaks frankly about how people like them are always left behind, how the system favors the wealthy, and how maybe, just this once, they should level the playing field. Seeing his hesitation, she gives him a card and tells him to call her. Bank finally joins the group. Grace uses her editing skills to create convincing documents, and Lynn persuades her father to sign off on a travel form by claiming it's for an international round of Teen Genius. With that, she can legally travel without supervision. In the days leading up to the test, Lynn and Bank drill themselves with practice exams and rehearse the bathroom routine until they can do it perfectly. They even rehearse what to say if they get caught, preparing fake emotional breakdowns and polished stories.
ตกลงแต่แรกก็หมดเรื่อง
But during a final group meeting, tensions erupt. When it's Pat's turn to practice his confession, he offhandedly refers to Bank as just some loser who showed up in a trash heap. That sets Bank off. Furious, he lunges at Pat, throwing punches before Grace and Lynn rush in to separate them.
แล้วมึงมาโมโหเหี้ยอะไร
Once things cool down, Bank demands answers. He never told anyone about waking up in that landfill. That's when it clicks. Pat had hired those men to attack him and make him miss the original exam, forcing him into their scheme. Enraged and betrayed, Bank storms out, vowing he's done with all of it. Outside, as he passes a laundromat ad plastered to a wall, he stops and stares, wondering if this cycle of struggling, hustling, and barely getting by is really all his life will ever be. Lynn, meanwhile, is just as shaken. The truth about what Pat did disgusts her, and she walks away from the plan too. Grace pleads with her, insisting she had no idea what Pat had done. All she asks is that Lynn doesn't end their friendship, because, despite everything, that bond means the world to her.
เราคงไม่มาทำอะไรโง่แบบนี้อะนะ
After everything, Lynn goes searching for Bank. Surprisingly, he's decided to come back on board. His reasoning is blunt. If he had to endure a beating and miss out on the exam, he might as well get something out of it. Lynn isn't convinced. She's ready to walk away for good, but Bank challenges her. He reminds her that none of this would have happened if she hadn't pulled him into it in the first place. If she feels any responsibility, now's the time to own up to it. A few hours later, the two of them board a flight to Sydney. The atmosphere is tense. Neither says much, and the silence hangs heavy between them. But once they land, the mood softens. They take a photo together, awkward smiles, but a shared sense of purpose. On test day, they carefully stash their phones in the bathroom stalls as planned, then head to the exam room. The first half of the test goes smoothly. When the first break arrives, they split up and head to the bathrooms. Inside his stall, Bank begins typing out his answers. But before hitting send, he pauses. He contacts Pat and demands more money. Furious, Pat initially refuses, but Bank stands his ground, reminding him of the beating and the sabotage. Eventually, Pat transfers half the agreed amount, promising the rest later. Bank forwards the answers once the payment hits. As soon as they got the answers, Pat and Grace started printing the barcodes on the pencils. Both Lynn and Bank return in time for the second section of the test, which they breeze through as well. But during the second break, things start to unravel. Bank gets to his stall quickly, but struggles to recall everything. He eventually manages to send the answers, but he's taken too long. An exam supervisor, suspicious of the delay, knocks on the door. Panicked, Bank fumbles and accidentally breaks the toilet lid. In a desperate move, he tries to flush the phone, but it doesn't go down. Moments later, he's caught. Lynn, on the other hand, is stuck waiting. There's a line for the stalls, and she hasn't even made it inside yet. Lynn manages to transmit all the answers, but the amount of time she spends in the bathroom draws suspicion. Thinking fast, she hides the phone inside her shoe and walks out calmly. Outside, she sees Bank being confronted by exam officials and learns they've begun searching every student. Realizing she could be next, she quickly slips the phone into the water dispenser and makes her way back to the classroom, trying to stay unnoticed. But Bank doesn't return. Now Lynn is left to tackle the final portion of the test on her own. Panic starts to set in. There's too much to remember, and no backup this time. But then her fingers begin to move across the desk, instinctively tapping out rhythms. That's when it hits her. If she thinks of the answers like notes on a music sheet, she might just be able to remember them. She uses the method and it works, but there's barely any time left. Desperate to escape and send the answers, Lynn forces herself to vomit using a pencil, faking a sudden illness. She rushes out of the classroom, retrieves the phone from the cooler, and slips out of the building, ducking away from the watchful staff. At the same time, Lynn's father goes to Grace and Pat looking for Anne. He tried to contact the number on the permission paper, but he couldn't. So he came to the address, which is the head office of the crime. Lynn is also in a big problem. Security cameras have already picked up her suspicious movements. A team of officers is dispatched to follow her. Lynn bolts into the nearest subway station, frantically typing as she runs. Just before she finishes, someone crashes into her in the crowd, stepping on her phone. The screen cracks badly, and for a moment, she thinks it's all over. Meanwhile, caught off guard, Pat and Grace scramble to explain. They spin a story. Lynn and Bank are in a relationship, and they took a secret trip together. Grace says Lynn was too scared to tell her dad the truth because she thought he wouldn't approve of the relationship. Ah yes, a fake relationship to cover international test fraud. Classic, works every time. Lynn's father, convinced by the story Pat and Grace told him, leaves the building without asking more questions. Back with Lynn, with a few more frantic presses, the message goes through. The answers were sent, but the delay made the students angry. As they are yelling at Pat, the answers get in, silencing them. With the coast clear, Grace and Pat finish assembling the barcode labels just in time and rush to deliver the pencils to the students before their departure.
C, D.
Lynn is also facing her own problem. She misses the train and keeps typing while walking. One of the officers finally catches up, telling her she'll need to come in for questioning. Thinking quickly, Lynn slips the damaged phone into the bag of a stranger passing by, hoping to erase any connection. Lynn is brought in for questioning and finds Bank already being interviewed. He subtly signals her to stay silent. He's covering for everyone. Holding back tears, Lynn does what he asks. Quietly, she deletes the photo they took together, erasing the small moment of friendship that had grown between them. When she returns to Thailand, Grace and Pat are waiting outside her building, excited and ready to celebrate their success. They invite her to a party, but Lynn turns them down. Her test results were voided, Bank was suspended, and the entire scheme left her feeling hollow. She tells them it's over. She won't be part of anything else. Besides, she reminds them, college entrance exams aren't multiple choice, so their little tricks won't work anyway. She then calls her father to come pick her up. During the ride, when he gently asks about the boy she supposedly traveled with, Lynn breaks down. The truth spills out. Everything from the cheating to the real reason she went to Australia. That confession leads to her expulsion from school. Later, she silently leaves the group chat as messages from Grace pop up, begging her to join the party. But Lynn says nothing. The friendship is broken, and the victory they all chased now feels meaningless. Eventually, she tries to apply to a local university, hoping to study education. But during her interview, the admissions officer points out that a teacher must also be a moral guide, words that hit her harder than expected. She leaves feeling the weight of everything she's done.
มีคนที่เหมาะสมกับหนูค่ะ
Soon after, she receives an unexpected message from Bank asking her to come over. At his place, she notices the laundromat has been upgraded with new, expensive equipment. Bank explains that he's planning to continue helping students with tests, but this time, the setup will be safer, more sophisticated, and with even more clients.
รัดกุมกว่าจ่ายคำตอบได้มากกว่า ที่สำคัญน่ะไม่ช่วยว่ะ
Lynn refuses to be part of it. Bank doesn't back down. He threatens to reveal everything if she doesn't cooperate. But Lynn stands firm. She tells him she's already made her
ส่
decision.
งข้อสอบ STIC ข้ามประเทศ รับรองแกโดนตัดสิทธิ์สอบไปเรียนต่อ
อย่างขึ้นอยู่กับเรา
Sometime later, Lynn walks into the office of the STIC exam board. Remembering the words of her father and knowing it's time to truly take responsibility, she sits down and tells them the truth, everything.
Your confession to the suspected cheating on the STIC test. So,
I'm ready